I stood in our Harlem kitchen at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in February, staring at 5 envelopes spread across our scratched wooden table like evidence at a crime scene. Con Ed, final notice, Verizon, account suspended, Mount Sinai Hospital, collections warning, Frederick Douglass Academy, lunch account overdue, Chase Bank, insufficient funds fee, $175. The rain was hitting our third-floor window so hard it sounded like someone throwing pebbles, trying to get my attention, trying to wake me up from whatever dream I'd been living. My husband Jamal pushed through the door, his work jacket dripping, his face carrying that look I'd started to recognize. Not anger, worse. Exhaustion mixed with something that looked like giving up. "Angela," he said, his voice cracking in a way that made my chest hurt. "We can't keep pretending this is working. The lights are next. What's your plan?" From the hallway, I heard the soft shuffle of feet. Tia, our 14-year-old, standing there in her 2 small pajamas, clutching her backpack like it was a shield. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Her eyes said it all. "Mom, can we afford new shoes for school?" Everyone laughs at me. I felt my throat close up. This wasn't just about unpaid bills anymore. This was about my baby girl going to Frederick Douglass Academy, one of the best schools in Harlem, wearing shoes with holes in them while I worked 60 hours a week. I turned away so they wouldn't see my face, so they wouldn't see me break. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. You can survive being poor. But watching your family fall apart while you're fighting just to keep the lights on, that's a different kind of poverty. The kind that lives in your chest and makes it hard to breathe. This isn't just about money. This is about what happens when the dollars run out, but love is supposed to stay. This is about a family on the edge, fighting to survive. And this is the story of how we almost lost everything and what it took to save it. Let me take you back 6 months before that night. Back to when things started falling apart so slowly, I didn't even notice at first. My name is Angela Robinson. I'm 40 years old, born and raised right here in Harlem. Lenox Terrace projects, to be specific. I grew up watching my mama stretch a dollar so thin you could see through it. She taught me how to make neck bones taste like steak, how to keep your head up when the lights get cut off, how to smile at church on Sunday even when you hadn't eaten since Friday. I swore my life would be different. And for a while, it was. I met Jamal Thompson when I was 22, working at the register at Pathmark on 125th. He was a delivery driver back then, strong, hard-working, with this laugh that made you forget whatever you were worried about. We got married at Abyssinian Baptist Church. Tia came 2 years later. Life wasn't easy, but it was ours. I worked my way up to warehouse supervisor at a distribution center in the Bronx. $45,000 a year. Not rich, but steady. Jamal drove for a trucking company out of Jersey. Between us, we were making it work. We had a 2-bedroom apartment on 145th and Bradhurst. Rent was $1,800 a month. Not cheap, but we managed. Then everything started to crack. August 2023. Jamal's trucking company downsized. 20 drivers laid off in one afternoon. He came home that day and just sat at the table, staring at nothing. I didn't say a word for 2 hours. "It's temporary," I told him. "You'll find something else." But temporary workers has a way of becoming permanent when you're not paying attention. September. Tia had an asthma attack at school. Bad one. Ambulance, emergency room, overnight observation at Mount Sinai. Thank God she was okay. But the bill? $5,300. Our insurance covered some of it, but we were left with a $2,400 balance. Same month, our landlord raised the rent. $400. Just like that. New lease or get out. So now we were paying $2,200 for the same apartment we'd had for 3 years. I started picking up extra shifts at the warehouse. Weekends, holidays, whatever they'd give me. I'd leave at 5 a.m. and come home at 8 p.m., feet swollen, back aching, too tired to even eat. Jamal was applying everywhere: warehouses, retail, delivery services. But at 47 with a high school diploma, nobody was calling back. October. Tia's school sent a letter about her lunch account. Negative $67. Could we please settle the balance? I cried in the bathroom that night. $67, that's all it was, and I didn't have it. That's when the fights started. Not big, screaming fights at first, just tension. Jamal would ask me about money. I'd snap at him. He'd get defensive. I'd accuse him of not trying hard enough. He'd remind me he'd been working since he was 15 and didn't need me questioning his manhood. "You're always at work, but we're still broke," he shouted one night after Tia went to bed. "I'm carrying us alone," I shot back. And from her room, I heard Tia's door close. Soft, quiet, like she was trying to disappear. November. I started skipping meals, just coffee for breakfast, maybe a granola bar at lunch. Dinner was for Tia and Jamal. I told them I'd already eaten at work. Jamal knew I was lying, but he didn't push it. December. The warehouse gave out Christmas bonuses. I got $300. I used $150 to catch up on the electric bill. Bought Tia a winter coat for $89 at Marshall's. Kept $61 for groceries. On Christmas morning, Tia opened her coat and hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. "Thank you, Mama," she whispered. I smiled, but inside I was screaming, because my baby was thanking me for a coat, a basic winter coat, something she should have just had. That's when I realized we weren't just struggling, we were drowning. By January, we were 3 weeks behind on rent. Con Edison sent a disconnected notice. My phone was getting shut off because I couldn't pay the bill. And every single night I'd come home to Jamal sitting on the couch in the dark, too ashamed to turn on the lights because we both knew they might not stay on much longer. "What are we going to do, Angela?" he asked me one night, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't have an answer. I just stared at those envelopes on the table and wondered when exactly our love had turned into arithmetic. When did "I love you" become, "How are we going to pay this?" Tia's grades started slipping. She stopped bringing friends home, started staying late at the library just to avoid being in the apartment. She could feel the weight of what we weren't saying, the shame we were drowning in. And that night in February, when Jamal asked me what my plan was, standing there in that kitchen with the rain pounding against the window and our daughter hiding in the hallway, I realized I didn't have one. I was just surviving, day by day, bill by bill. And somewhere along the way, I'd stopped being a wife and a mother and become a calculator with a heartbeat. Money was poison in our house. It turned love into blame. It made Jamal feel like less of a man. It made me feel like a failure. It made Tia feel invisible. And I had no idea how to stop it. February turned into March, and things got worse. I took on a third shift at the warehouse, 6 p.m. to midnight, 3 nights a week. That meant I was working 75 hours a week, barely sleeping, running on black coffee and desperation. Jamal tried to hide it, but I found his phone one morning while he was in the shower. Text messages from someone named Devin offering him cash delivery jobs. No contracts, no taxes, just quick money for moving packages across state lines. My stomach dropped. I knew what that meant. Those kinds of jobs don't ask questions because they don't want you to ask any either. "Jamal," I said when he came out, "what's this?" He looked at the phone, then at me. His jaw tightened. "What do you want me to say, Angela? That I'm supposed to just sit here and watch my family starve because I'm too proud to do what needs to be done? Those jobs aren't safe. You know that. And neither is getting evicted, or having our lights cut off, or watching Tia walk around school in shoes that are falling apart." He grabbed his jacket and left. Didn't come back until 2 a.m., wouldn't tell me where he'd been. That's when the real distance started. Not just physical, emotional. He'd look at me and I'd see it. Resentment. Like I was the reason he was in this position. Like I was the one who'd failed him. And maybe I had. One night in mid-March, Tia didn't come home from school on time. I called her on the phone. No answer. Called 3 more times. Nothing. At 7:30 p.m., she walked through the door. Her face was red. Her eyes were swollen. "Where were you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She didn't answer. Just walked past me to her room. I followed her. "Tia, I asked you a question." She turned around and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Anger. Where was I? I was at Ms. Jackson's house because she felt sorry for me and gave me dinner. You know why, Mama? Because I told her I hadn't eaten it since yesterday morning. The words hit me like a slap. "Tia, don't, Mama, just don't." She closed her door, locked it. I stood there in the hallway, shaking. That night, I sat at the kitchen table and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I pulled out a notebook and started writing. Not a to-do list, not a budget, just thoughts. What am I even doing anymore? I'd been so focused on survival, paying bills, keeping the lights on, making sure there was food, that I'd stopped actually living. I wasn't a wife. I wasn't a mother. I was at a walking emergency fund with no money left to give. And then I realized I didn't have a plan. I had reactions. I was putting out fires one at a time, but I wasn't building anything. I wasn't protecting anything. That's when I started asking a different question. What if something happens to me? Not in a dramatic way, just real. What if I got hurt at the warehouse? What if I got sick? What if a car hit me on my way to work one morning and I never made it home? Who would take care of Tia? How would Jamal survive? We had nothing. No savings, no safety net, nothing. And for the first time, I understood. I wasn't just failing to pay bills. I was failing to protect the people I loved from the future. I started doing research late at night when I couldn't sleep. I'd sit with my phone, reading articles, watching videos, trying to understand what I was missing. I learned about things I'd never thought about before. Health insurance that actually covered more than just emergencies. Life insurance that would make sure Tia could still go to college if something happened to me. Disability coverage in case I got hurt and couldn't work. It felt overwhelming. But slowly, a picture started to form. Not a fantasy, just options. Small things I could do to stop living on the edge. I called the HR department at my warehouse job and asked about our health insurance. Turns out we had a better plan available, $140 more a month, but it covered Tia's asthma medications without the insane copays. That alone would save us $300 a month. Why hadn't I done this before? Because I was so busy surviving, I never stopped thinking. I looked into term life insurance. A $250,000 policy costs $68 a month. If something happened to me, Tia would be taken care of. Jamal wouldn't have to scramble. I researched disability insurance. If I couldn't work, it would replace 60% of my income after a waiting period. Not perfect, but better than nothing. I even looked into renter's insurance. We didn't own anything fancy, but what if the apartment caught fire? What if someone broke in? For $22 a month, our belongings were protected. None of this was magic. None of it was get rich quick. It was just wisdom, planning, protection. But when I tried to talk to Jamal about it, he shut me down. "Angela, we can't afford to pay the rent we already have, and you're talking about spending more money on insurance we might never use." "Jamal, this isn't about if something happens. It's about when. We're one accident away from losing everything." "We're already losing everything," he shouted. "Or did you not notice?" He was right, and he was wrong, because losing everything slowly is still a choice, and I was done choosing survival without strategy. That's when I made a decision. I was going to start building a plan, quietly, carefully, even if he didn't understand yet. I upgraded our health insurance. I applied for a small-term life policy. I set up automatic payments for renter's insurance. It costs me an extra $230 a month. Money we didn't We have, so I cut deeper. No cable, no eating out. I meal prepped every Sunday. Rice, beans, chicken, vegetables, same meals every week. Jamal noticed. "What's going on, Angela?" "I'm protecting us," I said. "From what?" "From the next emergency." He didn't believe me. He thought I was hiding money. He thought I was planning to leave him. And then one night in early April, everything came to a head. I came home from my late shift at 12:30 a.m. Jamal was sitting at the table, my notebook open in front of him. The one where I'd been writing down insurance policies, payment amounts, coverage details. "What is this?" he asked, his voice low. "Jamal, life insurance, disability coverage. Angela, are you dying? Are you sick? What the hell is going on?" "I'm not sick." "Then why does it feel like you're planning your funeral?" I sat down across from him, exhausted, too tired to fight, too tired to lie. "Because I'm tired of being scared, Jamal. I'm tired of waking up every morning wondering if today's the day we lose everything. I'm tired of watching Tia go to school hungry. I'm tired of watching you disappear a little more every day. And I realized, if something happens to me, you and Tia have nothing. No safety net, no protection, nothing." His face changed. The anger drained out of it. What was left looked like fear. "So you're just giving up on us?" "No, I'm fighting for us, but I can't do it alone." He stared at me for a long time. Then he stood up, grabbed his jacket, and walked out. I didn't know if he was coming back. Jamal didn't come back that night, or the next morning. I called him 17 times. No answer. I texted him. Nothing. Tia asked where her father was, and I lied. "He's helping a friend." She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. On the second day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. My heart stopped. "Mrs. Robinson?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes?" "This is Dr. Patel from Harlem Hospital. Your husband is here. He's okay, but—" I didn't hear the rest. I grabbed my keys and ran. When I got to the hospital, Jamal was sitting in the emergency room with his head in his hands. His knuckles were bruised. His shirt was torn. "What happened?" I asked, my voice shaking. He looked up at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Tears. "I took one of those cash jobs," he said quietly. "Moving packages for Devon. I knew it was wrong, Angela. I knew it. But I wanted to feel like I could fix something. Like I could provide." "Jamal?" The drop went bad. Guy pulled a gun. I got out of there before it got worse, but he held up his bruised hands. "I realized if I'd gotten shot, Tia wouldn't have a father, and you'd be left with nothing, all because I was too proud to admit I needed help." I sat down next to him, took his hands in mine. "We've been so focused on surviving," I said softly, "that we forgot we're supposed to be living and building together." He nodded, wiping his eyes. That night, we sat at our kitchen table, the same table that had been covered in unpaid bills for months, and we did something we'd never done before. We made a real plan, not just paying bills, not just reacting to emergencies. A plan. First, we upgraded our health insurance. Yes, it cost more up front, but with Tia's asthma medications covered, we'd save $300 a month. And if any of us got seriously sick, we wouldn't be buried in debt. Second, I finalized my life insurance policy, $250,000 term life. If something happened to me, Tia would finish school. Jamal would have time to grieve without worrying about eviction notices. Third, Jamal applied for short-term disability coverage through a staffing agency he'd signed up with. If he got hurt on a job, he wouldn't lose income completely. We looked into renter's insurance, $22 a month. If the apartment burned down or got broken into, at least we'd have something. We found grace period clauses on some of our policies, ways to skip a month if we had an emergency without losing coverage entirely. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was protection. It was a foundation we could build on. And slowly, things started to change. Jamal got a steady job with a logistics company in Long Island City. Not glamorous, not high-paying, but steady. 40 hours a week, benefits, a paycheck he could count on. I cut back on my hours at the warehouse, went back to 45 a week. I started sleeping more than 4 hours a night. Tia's grades came back up. She started smiling again. They brought a friend home one afternoon and they sat at the kitchen table doing homework and laughing about something on TikTok. It was such a small thing, but it meant everything. We weren't rich, not even close, but we were stable. And stability, I learned, is its own kind of wealth. One Saturday afternoon, Jamal and I took Tia to Riverbank State Park. We hadn't done anything like that in over a year. No pressure, no crisis, just us. We sat on a bench overlooking the Hudson River, watching the sunset, and Tia leaned her head on my shoulder. "Mama," she said softly, "are we gonna be okay?" I looked at Jamal. He looked at me, and for the first time in a long time, I could answer honestly, "Yeah, baby, we're gonna be okay." Not because we suddenly had money, not because someone saved us, but because we'd learned the hard way that survival without wisdom is just slow suffering. We'd learned that protecting your family isn't just about working harder, it's about working smarter, planning, being honest, facing the fear instead of running from it. And we'd learned that love isn't enough when the lights get cut off, but love plus wisdom. That can save you. A year later, we moved to a better apartment. 2 bedrooms, safer neighborhood, $119, $50 a month. We could afford it because we weren't buried in emergency costs anymore. We had a cushion, not a big one, but enough. Tia got new shoes, without me having to skip meals to pay for them. Jamal and I started going to counseling, paid for with our new health insurance. It helped. We talked about money without screaming, about fear without blaming, about building a future instead of just surviving the present. And one night, sitting at that same kitchen table, the one that used to be covered in red envelopes and final notices, I pulled out my notebook and wrote something down. We fought over dollars while our family fell apart, but we chose wisdom while we put it back together. If you're watching this, maybe you're living this story right now. Maybe you're standing in a kitchen at midnight staring at bills you can't pay, wondering when love stopped being enough. Maybe you're working 3 jobs and still coming up short. Maybe your spouse is pulling away because shame makes people disappear. Maybe your child is going hungry and you're pretending everything's fine. If that's you, I need you to hear me. You're not a failure. You're not weak. You're just tired. And the system was never built to make this easy. But here's what I learned. Survival without strategy is just suffering in slow motion. You can't love your family out of poverty. You can't work your way out of a crisis if you're only reacting to emergencies. You need protection. You need planning. You need to stop surviving and start building. It won't be fast. It won't be easy. But it's the only way through. I don't know where you are today. Maybe you're barely holding on. Maybe you've already lost more than you can say. But I do know this. It's not too late. It's never too late to choose wisdom over despair. So let me ask you this. What's one thing, just one, you could do today to protect your family's future? Not a big thing. Just a small step. A phone call, a policy, a conversation you've been avoiding. Because that's where it starts. Not with miracles, with choices. And if you've lived this story, if money has tested your family, if bills have broken your marriage, if shame has made you feel invisible, I want you to know you're not alone. Leave a comment. Tell me where you are. Tell me what you're fighting for. Because your story might be the one someone else needs to hear today. Subscribe for more real stories like this. Stories of families who survived when survival felt impossible. Stories that prove hardship don't define you. They refine you. And remember, when money tests love, wisdom guards the hearth. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trusting me with your time. And may you find the strength to choose yourself, your family, and your future today.